I'm super stoked to be involved because I love like curation and it's sort of the way I express myself artistically. Again, going back to that thing, I don't draw, I don't paint, but I know how to place cars and I can take some photos. So
This week, we're joined by our pal Art Cervantes. Art, of course, is one of the founders of RADwood, and we talk about the big presence they'll have at Car Week here coming up, the appreciating and depreciating cars of the 80s and 90s, the origins of RADwood itself, and what it takes to keep putting on these amazing events that they do. This is a long one, but we talk about all sorts of interesting stuff, so stick around, tell your friends. It's That Car Show.
Welcome back to That Car Show. I'm Lindsay, and I'm here with Brian. And joining us tonight is Art Cervantes from Hagerty, and it's his birthday. So thank you so much for joining us, Art. We're glad to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm shocked, but I'm also honored that you would choose to spend your birthday with us.
I know.
Thank you.
It is a waste of it. No, I'm just kidding. No. This is great. I mean, I love to talk cars. I love to talk car culture. I love to interact with fun people. I mean, I've met Lindsay a few times at our shows, and this is awesome. I mean, I'm stoked to be here.
Fantastic. I mean, and That Car Show, people know it's the only way to celebrate, really. So we're going to make it an epic,
That's right.
epic day for you.
Keep you out of trouble. Nothing else.
So for those that don't know you, you are one of the creators and co-founders of RADwood, and you also host the Driving While Awesome podcast, and you are nearing 900 episodes on the show. So congratulations on that. That's amazing. And
Thanks
you and I met, or we first connected when I was contemplating buying an X5 from you, which was, I believe, Estoril Blue, and I decided I had to have it. Turns out that my BMW SUV collection has to wait, but we've stayed in touch and gotten to meet in person at several of the RADwood events, which are, as the name says, super rad. So I'm excited to have you with us and catch up and hear what's been going on.
Hey, real quick, before we get into it, we're excited to share some news. All of us here at That Car Show are thrilled to be working again with Sheffield Watches.
Sheffield, of course, is the storied watchmaking brand that was revived a couple years back by our friend Jay Turkbus, and it's seen wild success in both the car and watch enthusiast communities everywhere, and certainly with That Car Show crew. Sheffield offers a wide selection of watches, many inspired by the iconic designs of its 1960s dive models, most notably the one Jay's parents gave him in 1970, which ignited his lifelong passion for watches. His Porsche passion would follow.
Sheffield watches are high quality, reasonably priced, and a great value. There's a reason you can show up to pretty much any car gathering and see lots of Sheffield watches on wrists.
Order your Sheffield watch at sheffieldwatches.com. Give them a follow on the gram at Sheffield_allsport_watches.
And tell Jay That Car Show sent you.
Awesome. Yeah, exciting. And, I will say, we just had our RADwood NorCal event, which is our big Bay Area event, a couple of weekends ago. And the gentleman who purchased my 4.6 IS and Estoril Blue with Alcantara sport seat interior,
Yes,
I must add, was there. And, it's always a little bit of a scary thing, right? It's like, hey, how's the car,
Like,
And
yeah.
he's like, great. But the oil leaks are getting worse, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And it's a thing. I'll be, this is something I discussed on the show, but I did a ton of work on that car. Like, I had basically all the stuff that goes wrong. I had sorted and preemptively as much as I could, and then we had really like a couple little oil leaks here and there, but now, as you know, those are very complex, lovely vehicles, but they've got a lot of places to leak oil from.
Right.
And so I was not surprised, but he did not seem very upset, and he was happy with the purchase still. He says he daily drives it, and it is his dad mobile. Yeah, he has two girls, and they both go in the back.
That is like peak X5, that exact model, right? Like that was just the best looking one of all. So.
Well, and especially in that color. I mean, that's a large part of why I was so tempted, and I knew you had sorted it so well, and I thought, if I'm going to do it, that's the one to do it on.
Yeah. It's well, yeah, exactly. You didn't want to spend 15 grand or whatever I did on it, just getting it up to
Right.
stuff. And this is of course one of the nicest ones. I mean, well, as you know, it's a rare color combination and all
Right.
that stuff too. I think they made like 100 in this color combination or whatever. But I had been looking for a while, and when it popped up, I'm like, just like yourself, I'm like, I have to get this. So as soon as I saw it pop up, I bought it on Cars and Bids, and I paid like a premium for it. It was a lower mileage car. I think it had like 60 something thousand miles on it. And this is for the listeners. This is a 2003 X5 4.6 IS, which is got the really sweet quad cam V8 that it was actually designed by Alpina, and then BMW basically decided, because they were experimenting with the idea of like putting out an M SUV product. This is in the early 2000s, and they were going to go full tilt on it, but then they decided, you know what, let's test out the market here. And so this is effectively the first MX5, but it wasn't badged as such. And they, instead of developing their own motor for it, they just acquired the Alpina design and produced it themselves. And so it's the same motor as, I don't know, I think it's like maybe like an E34 Alpina,
Okay.
or maybe I can't remember, or maybe E39 actually. But anyways, sorry, nerdy stuff.
Also, one of the best stances of any SUV ever. It looked just
Isn't
so
it good?
It looks so good.
It's got is it 315s in the back or 325s? I can't remember.
One of
now, but
those, they're
very-
fat
they're
tires.
Big wide tires, yeah. And the fronts are pretty decent, but the rears are it's a staggered setup, and it just gives it such a cool, like, muscular look. And I have a story about that where, the first time I ever saw one, I was actually, this is kind of small world, full circle stuff, as I had mentioned before the show. I live in Santa Barbara, and I was in college down here at the time, and I was in my 75 2002 coming into town over a fun road here over the hill. And the car was dialed like suspension wise. I used to autocross it, but not necessarily a very powerful motor or anything. It just had a good, header, Weber, whatever. But like, we're talking compared to one of these things, nothing. And so this thing flies up on me. There's a section of road where there's a passing lane, gets in front of me, and I'm like, all right, cool. I got the downhill section here. I've got my suspension dialed. Let's go, And I was struggling to keep up with this guy. And I know this road really well. And when we got to the bottom of the hill, I'm like, what the heck is this thing, And I pulled up around it, and I saw the little flares, and it said 4.6 IS on the side. And so ever since then, I've always wanted one. And I finally got one and spent a tremendous amount of money on it.
Yeah, well worth it, I'm sure. Well worth it,
But
sure.
did get to enjoy it and had the experience. So I checked that box.
So good, so good. We should probably stop for a second just to I think most of the people listening certainly know what RADwood is, but maybe for the handful who don't, what is RADwood all about? Because really, you guys started a movement.
Yeah. So it's a celebration of 80s and 90s like car culture, but we celebrate the lifestyle piece as well across the board. So it's pop culture, and we incorporate period correct music. We encourage everybody to dress up, and there is an award for Raddest Dressed, and it's a really fun presentation that we do at each event for that. It is a People's Choice driven award, so we incorporate the audience, and it's a fun thing. But yeah, so it is really something that we identified, back in like 2016, really, maybe even 2015. The first show wasn't until 2017, but we had all among us, 80s and 90s like sports cars and fun drivers cars, and those were the cars that we grew up with, and that we lusted after when we were in high school and couldn't afford. So we started seeking out those cars, and so we had E36 M3, E30 M3, 944s, all the typical sort of like, especially the German side of things. I had a 993 at the time, and so we decided, well, we like these cars, right? So obviously we love to drive them, we enjoy them. And there was that key piece of all of it being that it was sort of the perfect balance between like modernity and like analogness, and they weren't carbureted. They started every time. They had decent AC, and also they weren't super heavy and tech laden, and just very like enjoyable cars to drive and own and work on. So we decided to put on a rally that was really focused around that through our podcast, through Driving Well Awesome. That was really a way to like open up the whole rally concept and really make it more approachable, especially for cars of this era, because there wasn't a place for our cars. And so
Right.
from that, we noticed there was enough interest in the driver's space, right? We had a ton of people that came out, and it wasn't just 80s and 90s cars, but we opened it up to, right? The majority were. And then we decided, okay, well, if people like to drive these cars and own them, we got to look into celebrating this era, just as, the Goodwood revival, and some of these old school, hot rod shows do, right? Like it's all about period correct everything and really immersing yourself in the era. And so we decided to put on, this RADwood event, and the first one was really an experiment. It was a bit of what I call the litmus test. In June of 2017, I booked the Brisbane Marina just in South San Francisco there. And we basically on the podcast said, hey, we're going to throw a boombox on a car and have a food truck, bring your 80s and 90s cars, dress the part, and let's have a good time. And we did have an RSVP and registration process, so we were able to track it a bit. We had 150 cars and about 500 people show up, and that was with no marketing outside of our podcast.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time, our podcast wasn't as big as it is now, right? So it was very regional, and it was pretty small. So yeah, we just kind of saw we struck a nerve at the right time, right? We identified a gap. There was no platform to celebrate this era, and we kind of right at the cusp of when we saw that generational shift happening, right? We were kind of riding that, and we decided to put on this experience. And so yeah, we've put on events all over the country now, one in the UK since then, and we actually became part of the Hagerty sort of umbrella of events in 2022, and so we're there now. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, and I think that's what sets the events apart. Like you said, it is such an overall experience with the music and the clothes. It is similar to Goodwood in that way. So tell me how you came up with the name, because it's so fun and it's so evocative, and it tells you what the event is. So I'm curious what the story was.
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I mean, it's the Goodwood wood is there, right? Like we were inspired by that. And then rad is the most appropriate word of the era, right? Like the most really, what do you well, evocative is a good way to put it, but it's just really sort of definitive, really, right, of the era. And so that was the thing. It was thinking, okay, what is the word that represents this era the most? And then it's portmanteaued with the wood, piece from Goodwood, since that was the inspiration.
It just works. If you're just listening and you're not watching, you won't see Lindsay in her vintage Hobie T-shirt, and I have stuffed myself into an old polo shirt from high school, which I haven't worn since about 1993, and it smells like 1993. But we're suffering for fashion.
That's how you know it's authentic.
But
I love it.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm saying I love it, and I gotta say I appreciate it, because you did mention that it's warm out there today, and for those who are on the audio channel here, it's a long sleeve, and it's a heavier shirt, not a polo shirt. It's a polo Ralph Lauren long sleeve shirt. Yeah,
that's all I had.
It's a legitimate shirt.
A lot of memories in this shirt.
Anyway, but that being said, I noticed the Hobie shirt right away too. I mean, I know you're more comfortable, but it's definitely rad, and we love this stuff. I mean, I actually, one of my favorite things about our shows is actually going to the thrift stores ahead of a show and seeking stuff out, right? I will always wear a RADwood hat because I want to rep, and it's also, hey, this is available at the merch tent, right? So it's
and
it's
on your website, I bet,
yeah. And so I'll do that, but I mean, if shirts or jackets, I love vintage motorsport stuff, and so I really seek that stuff out.
Any excuse.
So
exactly, yeah.
Best mic drop either outfit or car that you've seen at one of your events, nailed it
across all of them.
Right now,
man, there's been some there's been some really, really heavy hitters. I mean, people go all out. I mean, you'll there's been some excellent Princes, Prince, formerly known the artist formerly known as Prince, and full tilt, right? The makeup, the hair, the all the what's the frills or whatever they call,
the puffy shirt or whatever, right?
Whatever it's called, the pirate shirt. I don't know. All of it. But there's been some great ones of those. Yeah, I think personally though, there's been a ton of stuff and very well executed. Like especially people go into they cosplay like a lot of the artists and musicians of the
Yes.
era, right? So we've had a lot of Slash and Madonna and all that. That's cool. But one that really stuck with me was is it Lumbergh from Bill Lumbergh?
Yes.
Lumbergh from Office
From
Space.
Office Space.
And it was so perfect. I mean, he was dialed, and he had the same glasses, the tie, and it's just like such a. It's like most things, right? It's so personal, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a movie that I was super into, and also just it represented the era perfectly. It was
Sure.
it's so great, and so I really like that one especially because that's one that we hadn't seen, and I believe we haven't actually seen repeated. Where there's a lot of like the regulars, right? You have the guy dressed up as a solo cup or with that Dixie cup pattern, whatever
Right.
it's called, right? Things of that nature. But yeah, that one really stands out as it's just a hilarious outfit, and he had the coffee mug and everything too, which was awesome.
And I was
Take some
thinking
effort.
of
Yeah.
at
Totally,
RADwood
yeah.
LA in the fall. I think it was Brad Hansen and his wife Athena dressed up as Gem and the
Oh, yeah.
Holograms, and I think they won.
Yeah, but
Actually, they looked
they did, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. They went all out. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a really, really good it was also just because it was a band, right, too, and everybody did such a good job.
Right.
Yeah, it was super well deserved. Yeah, cars that's trickier because on average, let's say we get 15-ish, across the board. I'd say average between 10 and 15 participants at each of our RADwood or Raddest Dressed sort of competition per show, and we have an average of 500 cars at each show. So it gets a little trickier, but I think that there's some standouts where it's just because it's stuff that we've kind of brought out of the the woodwork, if you will, that
Sure.
that just don't have a place, right? And so I love seeing the really weird stuff, like the one that has come up a ton, and I feel like I'm a broken record because it's so exemplary, and it's not the geometric convertible lowrider that everyone that's about to because I've said it before. There was a Toyota Tercel all-track manual wagon.
Oh, wow.
At one of our events that had a pristine plaid interior, and that is such a cool car, and it's like super nerdy. It's something that most people would walk right past and assume it's like some lame grandma car, but like this, like it was we're talking late 80s Toyota, manual transmission, all-wheel drive, selectable all-wheel drive, and just the coolest like 80s interior you can imagine, right? Like just it was so cool, and my favorite thing about that, beyond the car itself, is that I'd say about 30 feet away, we had a 959, and there were more people around the Tercel wagon than there were around the 959 for the entirety of the event. So like, and that's what RADwood's about, right? It's like it's not all about values and the most exclusive and the most super car or whatever. Like it's just it's the fun stuff. It's also the how is it still here factor. The fact that someone preserved because sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it, because I mean everyone keeps their Porsche nice or their Corvette nice or whatever, but people don't keep their Tercels nice, right? It's
Not
Totally.
as a rule. Yeah.
no,
Right.
no, it's
and that's a really good point. So we have a Time Warp Award that we made for this exact purpose, right? To find these sort of like preserved, pristine examples of cars. But if it's down to two cars, and we're talking a sports car versus something that shouldn't have been preserved and someone appreciated for personal reasons or whatever, that's gonna win, right? Like it's because, just as you said, it's much more likely that someone's going to preserve a valuable car. Like that's just the standard, right? So that being said, though, I mean, we have, as a matter of fact, we've actually no, we ended up giving it a Radisson show at Pacific Northwest, but it was really close to getting. It was between another car, and it was either going to get that or Time Warp because it was the nicest E28 M5 we had ever seen. But it was also like a Euro spec car with like all the good Euro spec stuff. But I'm not saying that we're like by default they're not in the running. It's just like if it's against like a Ford Taurus, that's absolutely immaculate with 10,000 miles on it. I mean, it's hard to argue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think
yeah.
that's another thing that's really fun about the events is the number of times where you see something and you kind of stop and go like, what is the story? Like, how is this the thing
Yeah.
this person went, yes, I'm preserving this. Like, I think one of the
Yeah.
really fun ones at the Radwood LA last year was the hot pink rabbit, which was so
Oh
cute.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
really fun, definitely attracted the crowd attention, and the woman was so proud of it. And it was just like, I think that's another part of it is how proud people are of their cars, and you can
Yeah.
see it in the cars. But yeah, it's really the
Absolutely.
conversation piece, like super
Totally.
unique.
And that's really been part of the whole show philosophy since day one, the inclusivity, right? And like, of course, you want to put on a show and you want to have the big highlight vehicles that, the 993 GT2 or the 964 Turbo S, and of course, the DeLoreans and the Testarossas and
Right.
all the really typical icons, but and some that are standouts, right? Like, I mean, I'm proud to say that we've had an EB110 before, which I was super stoked
wow.
on. Like that's a very rare car, and for it to
Yeah,
like choose to
yeah.
come to our event, that's really
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
We've had all sorts of really cool Group B stuff, and that's all great to see. And those are my personal, like, legitimate favorite cars that I would want to own, right? But at the same time, like, it's kind of like finding those little gems, right, that are brought out, and especially because we've seen it all, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love, like, learning and discovering new things. But yeah, I was going to say something about the LA show with the pink. Oh yeah, so that woman, she was parked inside of what we call our royalty display, right? So that's the
Right.
curated section of the show. Typically we have a more photogenic space for those cars, and it's kind of like your showcase parking. They're more spaced out, and they're not just all packed in. But like, that car was parked right next to some six-figure cars, right, and like, and everything in between. And like, it's just that it was such an extremely, like, clean example, and it was also a super unique color, which I
Right.
later learned was that I think it was a nail polish color or something, and
Really?
she just loved the nail polish color, and then had it custom paint job done on her car to match. It was unbelievable.
That's incredible.
My introduction to Radwood was a couple years ago at Amelia, and I'll never
cool.
forget walking in, and there were 3 Buick Riatas, like set up like you were walking into a GM showroom in '88, right? Like, I mean,
Yep.
and there was like literature, there was a guy in like all the gear, and it was like this flood of memories because growing up, in 1988 in Indiana, that was an aspirational car. Like
Nice.
that was, and I hadn't seen one in years, and then to see 3 of them, and there was, I think, 2 convertibles and a coupe, and it was just, it was just awesome. It was, I've been a fan ever since. But what kind of cars did you grow up with? I think I'm probably older than you, so Riatas probably were not on your radar. But what were your folks driving? What were you into as a young person?
Well, my dad was a really big Datsun and Nissan guy, so I
Okay.
grew up around a lot of those. But it wasn't necessarily what I wanted. I was like really into JDM stuff, like I've always been, and so when I was in high school, well, I mean, I did want a 993 Turbo S. Like, at the time, that was like my favorite car.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've also always loved 300 SL Roadsters, so I was really into that. But in terms of like era, like specific stuff, like although 993 would have been, I was really into like Toyota Supras, the turbo
Sure,
Supras, like
okay.
everyone is, and Integra Type R, I loved and always wanted one. And 97 first year is my favorite, like, U.S. spec car. Now it's like impossible, right?
Is that
They're
the
like
triple
six-figure
white?
cars.
Or the
Yes,
yellow,
yeah,
or
so
yeah, okay.
championship white, yeah.
Yeah.
So the 97s are a little different.
Okay.
They have a 1 year only front end, and also they're lighter. They don't have a rear wiper. Like, all of these little, like,
Yeah.
it was more focused, right?
Yeah.
Before they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're going into the U.S. market. We got to really spiff this thing up because, people want air conditioning and rear wiper and blah 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 blah. But so. The first year is my favorite, but it is, yeah, championship white, and that's the one that I wanted then, and I still want now, and I'm never gonna do it because a nice example is 70 grand minimum, right? So, but yeah, I mean, well, I say never, maybe,
Stay tuned.
but yeah, so. Yeah, exactly. So I really liked the NSX, which I eventually bought. So I have been going down the list and buying all the cars that I and sort of like
Excellent.
going through the bucket list. But Yeah, NSX. I really liked all like the Subaru 22B, the Evo Mitsubishi Evo 5 was my
Yeah,
favorite,
yeah.
and continues to be. So yeah, and I think I am of, maybe because I'm a little younger. I don't know if you were playing Gran Turismo, but I was heavily
A little bit,
inspired,
yeah.
or influenced rather by Gran
Sure.
Turismo, right? So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was especially at that point, right, because it opened up a whole new world of cars that we didn't have here, right? So you see all the forbidden fruit, and I was so nerdy about it that I would go to San Francisco with my friends, and there was a Japanese bookstore there, and I would go to Kinokuniya bookstore, and there was a whole section of Japanese like car mags, and so I would, at the time I didn't speak the language, and I would just like get 5, 6, 7 of them, and bring them all home, and it was all for the photos, and it was so cool, to see all those cars. But so yeah, I was really into that.
Yeah.
Eventually, I got into Euro stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You said at the time you didn't speak Japanese. Do you speak Japanese now?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah.
Did
So
it come from the cars?
No, well, I mean, it was influenced by that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was really into like Super GT, and at the time, I guess it was JGTC, but I really like Japanese motorsports, and so I eventually ended up going there for the first time in 2003, and the short story long, as we like to say, is that I was originally doing pre-med, and I realized very quickly there. The difference between an interest and a passion as a young man, and I'm like, you know what, I like science, I love it, I've done fine in science, and I thought I wanted to be a surgeon, but this is not for me, and so I decided to go travel, ended up in Japan, and at that point I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I have to learn this language, and I have to move here and at some point, right? So, and in order to move here, I need to learn the language, and so I ended up changing my career path, if you will. I did Japanese with international relations, and luckily I was able to apply that very quickly as soon as I finished school and use it at a professional level, and spent a ton of time in Japan, which was great. So
Amazing. It's just the neatest place. I remember going, I've only been once, but going and seeing like skylines everywhere. It was like mind
Right.
blown, and it was probably around 2003 that I went.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it was just, it was just, everything was amazing.
Yeah,
Everything was
it
amazing.
continues to be. Yeah, it is my favorite place. I mean, we just got back. I was there 3 weeks ago, and I took my family there for the first time. I mean, my wife and I had to travel together, but we have 2 girls, and we had been waiting for them to be old enough, right, to like really appreciate what it was, and kind of acknowledge what was going on. And so yeah, it was super fun. Yeah, we did 2 weeks there, and it was a blast.
Awesome.
Well, I'm sure it helps to speak the language. That's an amazing way to travel.
I mean, I give you a ton of credit for learning. I mean, it's not an easy language.
Yeah,
as
it's my favorite. One of my favorite experiences, rather, was Japanese 101, first day in class, right? So we sit down, and everyone's kind of settling in, and it's this little Japanese woman at the front. She's very serious and just kind of acknowledge everyone and just like not saying anything. And then once everyone is seated, the door is closed. She says, "Welcome to Japanese 101. Japanese is the most difficult language in the world. So if you're interested in really truly learning, I recommend you stay. If not, you may have a difficult time." and then about 6 students got up and left, and then
that's amazing.
To listen. Yeah, and so it definitely made it. And I guess they were like, I kind of want to check it out, and they realized, and they're like, and this woman's like, no, this is not the place that you just check stuff out. You just don't even bother. It was.
More classes should start with a phrase like that, I think, or directive like that. Yeah,
totally. It was quite the disclaimer, but I love it. It's so old school, it's very classic. So, but yeah, it's a very difficult language, and I continue to learn every time, and when I go there, and it's there's a lot to it. Without kind of going on too deep of a tangent, there's a lot more. There's 3 writing systems. Think of it as 3 alphabets, and how many letters are in our alphabet? Like 30-ish, I don't know. Yeah. 26. There are one of their writing systems.
I don't know.
To know. Yeah, exactly right. But just to give you some perspective, though, one of the writing systems to be able to read like a newspaper, like a good newspaper, fluently, you need to know between 4,000 and 5,000 characters, and so then it goes from there, right? Like it's just there's 20,000 of these, and it's the same as the complex Chinese characters that you would see in Chinese, so it's very similar. And then you have two other writing systems, and also grammatically, like the way it works, there's nothing like it in the world. It's entirely unique. So the way you compose sentences is totally unique. They say, what is it, like Basque, Hungarian, and Japanese are the three languages that have zero like roots. Like they're not connected to anything. Yeah, wow. They're entirely independent. And so, yeah, it's wild. Yeah, but it's super fun for me. It's a challenge, and there's so many ways that you can express yourself in Japanese and things that you can say that don't exist in any other languages. And I'm a polyglot, and so I love just linguistics in general. So anyway, sorry.
No, I am as someone who very much isn't. I am so envious of having that gift. It's my biggest regret, right? And man, because it opens up the world. Right, as you know, so
I feel the same way about musicians. I don't play any instruments, and I'm very envious, and I love also. This is sort of more of a philosophical, or just I guess it's a philosophical thing in terms of just a philosophy of life, and I've always been really the type of person that loves to absorb as much information about everything as possible. And you hear like the whole jack of all trades thing, and like I really, really envy people who are super hyper focused and specialized in one thing, because it's like I don't have that, right? And it's so awesome to see. And Japan is like that. Like it's a culture of specialization. And so you go to Japan, you go to a ramen place, they only do ramen, and it's going to be the best. Yeah. You go to a curry place, they only do curry, and it's going to be the best. And so they just strive to do something really, really, really well. And it's something that's revered there, right? Like. They want you to. I mean, it's traditionally, I guess it's something that would be encouraged, right? Versus like, I feel like Western culture is like try to learn as much as you can, which I actually enjoy.
Yeah,
but music is that one of those things for me. It's like,
it's
it's
a good way to put it. JDM, what is it about those 90s Japanese cars that's just, that they're just so good? Like they're not like that now. What were they doing back then?
Yeah. Well, I think it really stems from motorsport, right? A lot of it does, and so it's like it's sort of like getting that race car for the street concept and really applying it, right? And so there were so many great like fun sports cars and rally cars that came out of Japan in that era, and also they were pretty like innovative, right? With like the way that they incorporated technology, whether it be like rear wheel steer or just like the way that they had their differential set up, and the way that they incorporated like yaw sensors to be able to control vehicle dynamics. And so they were really like doing a great job with that, but also like with like we talked about the Type R, right? Like the purity of a car, and like just focusing on really, even if as a loss leader, right, where that car didn't make them any money, but it like established Honda and Acura as like just as a technological powerhouse and like a motorsport powerhouse, right? And this is all like stuff that you see in Porsches, right? It was like seam welded chassis with like the super high revving, over 100 liter per horsepower, out of this tiny little naturally aspirated, 1.6 or 1.8 liter. They had the EK9s over there with the B16B, and just all of it, right? And it just from an engagement standpoint and driving dynamic standpoint, like they're so analog and so raw and so communicative, and that's like what makes a good driver's car, right? Is like understanding what the car is doing and getting that information. I had an R33 GTR that I sold last year, and I was really impressed by how raw it was, like, because like everybody talks about, okay, the R32 is the one, and then the R33 got really soft, and then the R34 is like the cool one because Fast and Furious. But I've always been an R33 guy, and so I bought one never having driven one, because as soon as it became importable, I'm like, I gotta have it before it gets nuts, right? And so I got one through Top Rank, and they found me like exactly what I wanted. It was a super, super nice car, and just I was so impressed by like all of this stuff, right? Just like the feedback that you get from that steering wheel, it was akin to like an air-cooled 911, which is insane, right? Because we're talking about a motor that has a big longitudinally mounted, inline six in the front, and like it's just not the same thing, right? And so you just have such granularity, and also it was weighted perfectly, and there's all these little details about the driving experience, right? Like the intake manifold is on the driver's side, for the Japanese. So you get all of that intake induction sound right in front of you. And so all of that starts to add up, right? So there's a lot of reasons, but also I think that the Japanese were looking at the rest of the world and trying to improve on that, right? You look at the Lexus LS400 and what they did there, right? And so that was a world-beating car, and they were looking at Mercedes, as the standard, and they're like, let's take a Mercedes and do better, improve it in every way, right? And in their own way, and so they created some amazing stuff. So it's a lot of that, but I think the most important thing I think is also who's at the helm, right? Like you look at Akio Toyota now, and how influential he continues to be with the Toyota brand, and ensuring that they still make drivers' cars and cars that are engaging and fun, most importantly, right? And not just boring, the people transporters.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah. There's a bunch of other reasons I could go into and sort of like
but
theorize
it's easy
on.
to forget.
But those are the
Toyota,
things.
Toyota's got 3 sports cars at least right now, right? The Corolla GR, there's the 86, and then the Supra.
There's also the GR, Yaris and Corolla.
Oh, well, right, over other places, but yeah. It's just give them some credit, I guess, is my point. Right?
They're trying, it's a battle internally, right? Like they're trying to optimize for profit as usual, right? And what is it that's selling? SUVs and hybrids and all that. And so like to keep that it's really continue to push for that is commendable. And I think also you look at the truck side of things, and the TRD program is massive, and that's the same concept over there. But I think it's really like the philosophy of the brand and what they're trying to do, and having the right people in place to continue to really push that. Because look at where Nissan is now. Look at where Mitsubishi is. Like that's all, it's all gone, right? Like, and they were definitely like at the top in the RADwood era. I'd say they were like all of their cars were pretty awesome.
Well, it's interesting. It ties in with what you were saying about the language and just culturally the focus on doing one thing really well. And like you were saying with the GTR, you were amazed. I think that's the one you were talking about, where it turned out the driving experience was pretty incredible. And the sort of focus on doing one thing kind of shines in every area of the culture, it sounds like.
I think so. Yeah. And it's whether it be making the best hybrids, or the best minivan, which they usually are producing, right? Or just sports cars and fun, entertaining vehicles for sure. I heard that we'll see what happens, but I was kind of disappointed because I heard that they were considering putting a V8 in the next Supra, which is what they should have done in the first place. I thought, I'm like, if they would have put the LC500 V8 in the Supra, like how awesome would that have been with a manual transmission? Like that's everybody wants that. Like everybody wants that, right? And instead they used a BMW platform, and how that went. Apparently mildly successful, and also technically a good car. It's just not necessarily what I want, especially aesthetically. But I feel like with something happened with V8 supercars where they want like a Supra in the series, and so in order you have to have a V8, and so word on the street is that the consumer version may not have a V8, but that's still like sort of in flux, and it's kind of a bummer though if it doesn't, because if you got the V8 supercar version, like that's the one that everybody wants too. Again, right, going back to that. So. Bizarre alignment, right? I know that there's emissions limitations and standards that have to be met, but I mean, if you look at it, just like everybody says, right? If Ferrari made manual cars, they'd sell every single one of them, but they don't do it, right? And so in this case, like I think there's no reason why every V8 manual Supra wouldn't sell. I feel totally based on what I'm seeing in market trends.
Yeah. You've got an NSX at the moment. Is that what you said?
No, I had
No?
one.
Okay.
I had one when we started RADwood. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I had an NA1 NSX, and I think you guys will appreciate this. You guys know the movie Pulp Fiction, of course,
Sure.
and so the Wolf. Remember Harvey Keitel's character drove a silver NSX,
Yeah, the best
which
color.
is what I
Yeah.
had.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
and
No kidding.
that's the color I wanted. And so Silver NSX, and he was the Wolf in the movie. That was his name, right? That was
Right.
his code name or whatever. And so I tried to get the Wolf like vanity plate, but it was already taken. So I got Tewolf, Teh Wolf, like in lead speak. So it was kind of nerdy, but people acknowledged it, and I had the plate. And I was dressed as Harvey Keitel for the first RADwood. So I rocked the Wolf name badge. I'm sorry, name tag, and I had a fake cigarette, with the tuxedo. So yeah, it was really cool. But
That's
You set the
fantastic.
bar high then.
Yeah.
yeah, and
That's
I was
the
going to say,
secret.
yeah, but ironically, these days, especially like once we started to really get going, rather, and
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
scale these events, like, being dressed up is problematic, right? You're like running around and you have two walkie-talkies on you, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just wear a cool, fun T-shirt. If it's cold, I'll rock like a motorsport jacket and throw on a RADwood hat.
Sure,
and we're
sure,
good, But,
sure.
but yeah, as much as I'd like to dress up and in a full like Benetton Schumacher attire, whatever, race suit, I'm not going to do it.
You'd have to have period correct walkie-talkies, and then it just sort of spirals, right? It
Exactly.
goes from there. But you mentioned the NSX, and I bring it up only because there are very few cars that have, I guess, increased in values quite as much as those early NSXs. You know this; they were $20,000-$30,000 cars, maybe less at one time, right, for a rough one. And they're just such wonderful, wonderful cars. But what's a good one go for now? It's six figures.
I guess if defined good, I think
Yeah.
it's more about mileage and condition
Okay.
these days, right? Like a driver, which is a car with, let's say, between 70 and 100,000 miles, and that isn't flawless, is going to be, 60 to 80 grand.
Okay.
And if you find something that is like, under 50,000 miles, especially a later car, like the
Yeah.
fixed headlight cars,
Right,
and
right.
a manual fixed headlight car is 100% a six-figure car now.
Okay.
So,
God, they're just good
and
cars.
yeah, I think the cheapest I've seen them these days are like in the 50s, and they're for very high mileage cars.
Really?
And ironically, it's like it's a Honda, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
just it's not going to
that's
deter.
true.
I mean, it's not going to impact the driving experience. It's just that it's kind of money in, money out, right?
Sure,
If you're putting money there, that's what you're going to get out of it when you go to sell. But
Yeah.
if you want to own the experience and just have it for a year, like I think I would go for that. $50,000 example, because they're aluminum chassis. Like they have an aluminum monocoque, and they're very, very nice cars, and they're so well built, and they're extremely like comfortable to drive too, because they're like ergonomically very well designed, just from your seating position. And I don't know if you've driven one or sat in one, but the visibility out of one is
Yes.
kind of one of the best of any car in existence. Like,
What
'cause the
happened to
way that-
visibility, Art?
Yeah,
that is the
seriously.
one thing I want to bring back, right? Just good
Right.
visibility.
I know, right? Well, thick A, B, and C pillars happened for safety reasons, right? That's the first thing. But yeah, the NA1 NSX is you sit sort of like kind of upright, and like the dash is super low, so you see over
Yeah.
the dash, and the front end just drops down, so you basically see the road directly in front of you. It's such a cool sensation. They're phenomenal drivers cars. The only issue I had with mine in particular, because it was a US spec model, is that they have really long gears, and I think it's again, US market, people drive on big fancy Texas highways, right? And so so they made our gearing really tall, and in Japan they had a different gear set. You get different final
kidding.
drive.
I didn't know
and
that.
So
Yeah.
so that's the move,
Okay.
And I was considering it, and then I sold it and got something else, but I think if I were to get another one, which isn't out of the question, I think they're such awesome cars, and they have phenomenal presence.
Yeah.
I would get either a different final drive, or get the Japanese
Okay,
gear set,
okay.
or both, because that especially the type of driving that I like to do. And I mean, you said you're in Denver, Lindsay, you're in PNW, like, tight, twisty mountain roads.
Yeah.
You want to be shifting through the gears, right? Not just sitting in second all day.
Ironically, you're speaking to two GT4 owners
Oh,
who also suffer from very long gears. So yeah, we can.
That's a
relate.
thing.
Yeah,
That's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our friends over at Sharkworks can take care of you.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Yes, that's going to be the next move for sure. So, right on.
That's a life goal. I know. Well, and you have such great
Yeah.
roads in Santa Barbara up in the hills to explore. So it sounds like that's a pretty good
totally.
combo.
Yeah, I mean, and I would be frustrated driving a stock NSX around where I live. It wouldn't really work because I mean, I have one of my current cars I built specifically for backroad driving, and it's like it's with that in mind, right? It's I have an E30 that has a K24 in it, a Honda motor, and
Very nice.
and
Very cool.
even now I feel like I have a 373 final drive, and I want to probably go to a 410.
Yeah.
Because like I don't really care about top speed in a car like that.
That's it.
It's all about like I want to be shifting through the gears, enjoying. I want to be rev matching, downshifting, and if I shift through 4 gears to be at 90 miles an hour, who cares? Like it's I'm not racing anybody. It's more about that engagement and having a good time.
Yeah. What do you think's undervalued right now? Or like, what should we all be buying? I mean, I've said it before. We should all be out picking up like early Boxsters, right? Like find the nicest one you can find 10, put them in a barn, right? And come back in 20 or 30 years, right? What do you think? What's the move?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's a few cars that have increased in value a lot, but are kind of settled and have room again. And one of them I feel is like the E36 M3. I think they kind of blew up and then they got soft again. And those are such great cars. And I know that they've always had that stigma of like, the Euro one's got the cooler motor or whatever. But I'd say that most people that say that have never driven one. And they're so fun to drive. Yes, they do have the biodegradable glues in the interior. So you got to like fix your door panels and the what do you call it? The glove box door is going to sag, and but those are all remediable things. But in terms of like a driving experience and what you get, like a super silky smooth inline six, the gearing is perfect on that car with the stock setup, and just a super enjoyable like. Not a slow car fast, but like a quick car fast, right? It's not going to get you in crazy trouble, but definitely really, really, it's just a fun car to drive. And I think they're super handsome. They come in great colors. They sound good. They check a lot of boxes. I've had a bunch of them, and every time I sell my last one, I say, "All right, I'm done with E36 or E36 M3s," and then I'm like, "All right, I'll get another one." But I've set myself up for permanent failure with that though, because I said that I'm only going to buy one very specific car, and there are like a handful of them, so I'm never going to find one. I want a slick top. A slick top techno violet with Modena interior M345. So I want a sedan manual transmission in the purple with that Modena. It's like a saddle interior. It's a dark tan or whatever you call it.
Right.
And they're extremely rare. I've seen 2 of them, and both of them were not for sale, of course. And so I'm just a super nerd about that stuff. I feel like having that combination of ingredients would absolutely make me want to own it. But yeah, I think those are still undervalued. I think the other car that continues to be very undervalued is a 944 Turbo. I feel like 944 Turbo is a phenomenal car. And they're not super expensive. Like a nice driver is between 50 and 20 grand still. And like, it is so much car for the price. Like, it is a genuine Porsche. You got, really, really fantastic handling, driving dynamics, and it's cool design, all of that. It's great. I think it's a fun time. The other cars that are sort of my oddball choices would be a 280ZX Turbo. I feel like those are like way slept on. It's such a handsome car. They're really cool, very rad. With the RADwood era sort of like design. I think that's something that it continues to be a good buy. I think. Yes, it's going to be squishy and soft, but like, that can be remedied, and there's aftermarket options out there for you. But that one I've also talked about the 300ZX turbos, but those are not the one that everybody wants with the quote unquote Lamborghini Diablo headlights, right? The
Yeah.
90 or 89
Sure,
and
sure.
later.
Yeah.
But the Z31, which is the one after the 280ZX, and those are also really cool. The turbos, the later ones especially, I think it's a great design. Very cool interiors. You can get a pretty sick like digital dash on them. Those are a few that come to mind right off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, those are good ones. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was distracted. I think I have a bat in my garage.
Whoa!
So
All
I
right.
got the door
We'll have
open
a
because
little-
it's either that or a very large bug. I'm going to just let it be, and we're going to keep going. But I had to figure out what's going on.
Right.
All
So
good.
I'm
As
back.
long as it doesn't land on your neck, right?
I
We'll
know,
keep an
right?
eye out. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Would that be a show?
Yeah.
Would that
We'll
be a
warn
show?
you to duck
yeah.
if it starts to like get real National Geographic behind you or something.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what the hell that
What
was.
is
I love
happening?
it. No, it's all good. But
Yeah, hey, yeah,
It's
wildlife.
real
What
life.
can you do?
Well, I love-
this is not a
I
mountain
love your
lion or a
list.
bear or something. Yeah, yeah, it's a great list, and
Yeah.
and Lindsay, you can speak to the E36 a little bit, owning one, a four-door yourself, and I remember when those cars were new. It was the second coming, right, on Car and Driver.
Yeah.
It was on the cover and Dakar Yellow. But I
Yep.
mean, you love your
Right.
your
I do.
E36, right? That's
Well, and I think it's fun about M3s in general is that they always have, the special yellow and the special blue. And so the E36 was Dakar yellow and Estoril blue, like your X5
yeah,
was.
yeah,
Yeah, and I have an M345, which I think is so fun. M3, 4 doors, 5-speed. And I hadn't driven it for a bit, and I went and test drove another one. And I was like, yep, still love them. They're the best. Like, there is something about them that just sucks
Yeah.
you in. I think just because they're so fun to drive. It's not like they're not precious anymore unless you get a Techno Violet with a Modena interior.
yeah.
And you can just enjoy the driving experience.
Yeah, I think you really look into it and compare it to the alternative for that price point, and it's like it is a lot of car. It is such a great car, and I think they continue to be underappreciated. Obviously, especially because the older brother, right, the E30 M3 with all that motorsport heritage, like they
Right.
continue to be, I mean, although they've softened significantly, like you can find them in the 50s again, 60s, where they went like 6 figures for a while,
it's crazy.
but. Yeah, and I've had both, and I can tell you now that outside of like the aesthetic component, like the E30 M3 is such an awesome looking car, and like
Right.
it's such an iconic design. But like in terms of the driving experience, an E36 M3 is so much better. It's like
Three generations, I feel like, of development, right? I mean, it was
Right.
just such an improved car in so many ways, right?
Totally, yeah. And I have an E30 in the garage with a
Yeah.
high-strung little 4-cylinder, and I'll admit it. They're awesome cars, and it's definitely way more. I mean, E36 is much more insulated and not as like raw, right? But
Right.
but in terms of what you get out of it, I think it's a good option, especially because, as I said, I think that. And I'm sorry, Lindsay, it doesn't sound like you're selling yours, but the market sort of softened on them. They were getting super expensive for a second,
Yeah.
and they they continue to be if you've got a lightweight or like a super
Sure,
low mileage,
sure.
rare combo of ingredients there, but. Yeah, I was trying to think of some other stuff, but yeah, there's everything else seems to like that I would want at least like has all become too valuable or it's just too complex to really to enjoy, and like we always talk about the Audi V8s. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
The
Like
original
V8. Yeah. Uh-huh.
the boxy sedan.
Yeah.
And those are worthless, and they came with a manual transmission,
Yeah.
a super cool V8, but fine parts.
Yeah,
it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so there's stuff like that just it doesn't have a market because they're challenging to keep on the road, right?
Sure.
But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that.
It's interesting. Yeah. Those were such cool cars, though. I feel like most of them were in pearlescent. They had those amazing BBS wheels, right? I mean,
Yep.
they were just so good. But yeah, other cars like that just aren't, it's just not worth touching, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think especially as you get later, into like the early 2000s in particular, right? You start to get into some stuff like there's some AMG products that are really awesome, but then it's that classic case, even late like what is it, the E55, right? Like a late 90s E55, like such a fantastic car,
Yeah.
but they're worth maybe like 10 to 15 grand for
Yeah.
a decent driver,
Yeah.
but you're going to put that much into it a year in maintenance, right? Because everything is super expensive and like and stuff is going to go wrong. So there are cars like that where you end up in a situation where I call it like the 928 effect, right? For a long time,
Yeah,
928s were not worth keeping on the road,
Yep.
right? Like the people just kind of when the first bill came in, the first big bill outside of warranty or whatever came in, they're like, all right, it's going in the driveway under a tarp. We'll get to it eventually,
Yeah.
and they stayed that way for 20, 30 years. And so I feel like eventually, things have come full circle. And as we talk about this sort of generational shift and people seeking those out now and, wanting to because there's nostalgia, there's stories, people are willing to invest and actually get them back on the road. And now you see a ton of really nice
Yeah.
928s
Yeah.
and most
Yeah.
of them are very valuable because people invested the money to get them back into tip top shape. So, so you find stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna say what was the SLs like of the through 89 or whatever. What was that?
Oh, the R107. Yeah, that's
I'm sorry, yeah,
convertible.
Yes,
Yeah.
I feel like those are still really undervalued. Like those are a hell of a lot of car, but
Yeah.
maybe not quite with the issues that the 928 have. But I don't know, man. I grew up with Weird Science and Risky Business, and the 928 is just. I mean, that's the car for me of that era. And
Yeah.
will always be.
That's
It's
funny that you mentioned the Mercedes. So I had a car that it's so funny. Like it sort of made the rounds. Like I bought and sold among friends, multiple times, and we kind of kept it among us. But it was a Euro spec 500 SEC Mercedes.
Oh,
so it's the pillarless coupe.
Yeah.
Hard top, and this was a Euro spec car, so it had the tight little bumpers, and it had the beefy Euro spec 5-liter high compression motor, and a bunch of AMG bits from the era that were
Okay,
dealer
cool.
installed, and super cool car. That is a very undervalued car.
Okay,
So SECs in general, they're like just amazing Teutonic, like so well made, and like they're just beautiful cars. They have so much presence. It's a car that I could drive up to any Ritz and valet at the front, and no one questions it.
Yes,
right? Like, and it's just
great point,
and it's this like really cool classic looking thing,
yeah.
and so this one in particular had custom BBS RS wheels installed at the dealer before they shipped it over.
Oh, wow.
AMG lowered suspension on it, and supposedly AMG cams, but I never opened it up. But it was a fast car, and I sold it to a friend, and then I want to say it sold on BAT for like 15 grand. Not too long ago, and this
amazing.
or maybe on Cars and Bids, but this is a car again. We're talking about a car that has so much presence that you
Yeah.
can take anywhere, and not no one's going to bat an eye, and they drive that way too.
Yes,
They drive the way they
yes,
look.
yes.
They're so tight and just they're so like they're Autobahn bargers, right? They're specifically designed to like cruise at high speed, and like a big GT car like that, very underrated. They have some expensive bills, but like overall, it's they're pretty reliable, and there are some really nice examples out there because grandma or grandpa like bought one new and then didn't drive it very much, and you'll find them out there they've been sitting, which means you got to get through the rubber and do all that.
Sure.
But overall though, I think they're still very cheap considering how awesome they are.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't make a ton of those, I think, when they were new, or didn't import a ton. And weren't they like 200 grand in like 80s money when they were new?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Super expensive, right?
Yeah. And a lot of them got they got the cocaine cowboy treatment too, right? Like they went, there's some gull wing versions out there with crazy white interiors and all the buttons, and they were pretty funky, but that's one that stands out for sure.
Yeah, there was one I think at Amelia when I was there that had it was owned by some sheik, and it had like a golden Thunderbird shifter and a 40 or 50 band graphic equalizer, like it's a piano, across the dash.
Totally.
It was just epic. That stuff is the best.
Absolutely.
That stuff is the best.
It's great, and we love to see that stuff. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Do you have time for a couple of questions from Instagram?
Absolutely.
So, Chaycore, Chaycore, asks, what have been the biggest challenges with RADwood events, both at the beginning and then now?
Oh, that's a good question. There's the first thing would be that, we initially started with a very small group of people, right? and we wanted to do big things.
Yeah.
So, which required a tremendous amount of commitment and a lot of, just a lot of bootstrap work 7 days a week and doing, just startup stuff, right? Like that you find in small organizations. And so, once we saw that there was enough interest, we wanted to keep that momentum going, right? Because as soon as you make a splash, it's very easy to fade away if you don't keep that, and keep that momentum. So we started traveling a lot and doing events all over the country, and a part of that really with putting events on like this, the challenge is in finding interesting venues is really important for me. And like, one of the things that from day one that we talked about is like creating a space that's unique and that it isn't just another car show, right? And so all of our venues have interesting backdrops and or interesting sort of like opportunities for vehicle placement and creating kind of a unique ambiance around the show. And we talked about some curation, things of that nature. And so all of that is super important. And so it's challenging to find a venue that is interesting like that and is photogenic, but also that can, have several thousand people on site, that there's, spectator parking available, and then also you get the right permitting for it because, we do everything legit, right? So like the city needs to approve it. The fire, needs to be done. All of those things need to be done correctly. And so doing that while simultaneously putting on a good experience is challenging. And so that was, something that was a challenge early on and continued to be, after the fact. But, that was the first one. What was the second question? Sorry.
It just, challenges now. I mean, maybe it was a huge relief when you sold to Hagerty, right? Because a lot of that was off your own shoulders, right?
That was part of the reason, right? As we wanted to scale the business, like we wanted to have more support, and being part of the Hagerty kind of umbrella, or under rather, the Hagerty umbrella is it really kind of plugs you into a very wide and large network of people and organizations, right? So that gives you a lot, opens up a lot more opportunity. Right. Obviously, we want the staffing support as well and all of the things that come with that, but that's a big one. And so I think, the challenge now is I'll be very frank. I think, it is a business, right? And so, how do you balance that, sort of creative freedom and creating a fun experience while also being profitable, right? And that's really important because that's what it's all about ultimately, right? And so, and it's very easy to just basically say, all right, let's just go with something basic. We can put on an experience anywhere, and and ultimately, like really get the beefiest margin possible, right? And so, for all things, and it's a challenge, right? To try to balance all of that. And so that's very front of mind for me. And I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to do that. And there's, being part of Hagerty is beneficial in many ways because of how it's plugged in and all the different business units, and supporting all of the different Hagerty properties is also helpful. And so there's all of those things, but, cause quite frankly, like the goal here is, this is the next generation of automotive enthusiasts, right? And so, and this culture and these people are very valuable to basically, future-proof the business, right? I mean, historically, we have a lot of the old school shows, right? I mean, and everybody talks about this, like a lot of the cars that were super valuable 20 years ago are now not, right? And it's because of the interest. And so I think it's important to really be able to find that balance, right? Of like, and it's all good stuff, right? Like, we want to do good for our parent company, and we want to do great for our attendees and our participants in our community. And so that's, without being too specific, like that's the current challenge, I'd say.
I mean, I give you a ton of credit because, I mean, I feel like, you've still got the magic, right? I mean, you've got the cred still. And I think that's the toughest thing to retain, right? Doing anything. And so job well done, not blowing smoke. I mean, it's RADwood's as cool, as good as it's ever been, I think. And
awesome. Thank you.
Right. I mean, it's awesome. Continues to grow. And
I mean,
you're
and
at Car Week.
Yeah.
This is like living the dream.
And that's the thing too, is that having the right people involved still, right? And so, we have, it's three of us from the original co-founders that are still involved. Like I'm the director. Warren Madsen is heads up operations, right? So he's on that side of things, and then we work very closely together. And then Lane is still managing our social media and doing some creative work, and so that keeps things consistent, and we work really well together. And so we've been doing this since day one together. So the fact that we're able to continue that is super crucial, right? Because that's really part of the whole identity of the brand and how what type of experience we put on and what type of experience this should be in the future, right? And luckily, because of the liberty that we've been given, as part of Hagerty, it's been very successful still.
That's awesome. Well, and Ryan mentioned Car Week. I know that's top of mind for all of us. We're getting excited. So what can we look forward to from RADwood and like Motorlux, and what can we expect?
Yeah. So we're gonna have our own curated display. It's gonna be a 50-car RADwood era 50-car display at an event called the Paddock. This is an inaugural event at the Black Horse Bayonet, which is historically the place that they hold the Concorso Italiano, and so it's gonna be great. We're gonna have a beautiful scenic spot on the lawn overlooking the ocean. There's going to be 15 food trucks there, all sorts of other cars there as well beyond ours, and we're going to have our resident DJ is going to be spinning on the ones and twos within our space, and we're encouraging people to dress up still, and so it's going to be a great time. I mean, good food, great venue, and a bunch of really rad cars. We have 50 really, really nice hand-picked submissions. So we're going to be there first. Not first. That's the one sort of standalone thing that we're doing. That's going to be on Friday, on August 15th. It's a 3 to 8 p.m. It's an evening show, which is pretty cool. And then on Wednesday, so going back in time now, 88 miles an hour.
Well played. Well played.
Yeah. We're going to be at Motorlux. And so we actually are not putting on a RADwood event per se there. Being part of the Hagerty events team is that we also assist with other events, right? Because Hagerty owns quite a few events, including the concours and things like that. So we are on the RADwood guys, we do the vehicle selection and placement, and so curation of the cars and manage all of that on site. So if you go to the Motorlux event, which is a phenomenal party, historically it was called the Jet Center Party. It's at the Monterey Airport. It is like Michelin-starred chefs, all of these food stations, curated displays of cars among airplanes as well, and we take over some hangars. It's really cool, and that's I'm super stoked to be involved with that because I love curation, and it's sort of the way I express myself artistically. Again, going back to that thing, I don't draw, I don't paint, but I know how to place cars and I can take some photos. So.
Yeah.
So that's always
a skill for sure. Yeah.
You can curate a mean car event.
Yeah.
I can curate a mean car event. Yeah, exactly. So, so we're going to be there, and that's going to be a ton of fun. That's on the Wednesday, an evening event as well. There's some pretty heavy hitting cars that we're going to have there. We have a couple of F40s. We have several roofs, including a one-of-one roof CTR Yellowbird slant nose. The only slant nose they made. There's going to be
amazing.
Some other stuff, including that Penske specific Porsche 963, I believe they're calling it. that one-off that was debuted at Goodwood. This is going to be its U.S. debut. So it's sort of it looks like an LMP one prototype, but it's actually
the silver one, right?
It's a Porsche built, the silver one,
yeah.
It's a Porsche built race car for the street, if you will. We're going to have that, and then a ton of other stuff. I mean, just all of anything you can imagine. So a lot of RADwood era, heavy hitting cars, but also you're going to see some pre-war, blower Bentleys and modern supercars, and everything in between. So it's going to be a really good time. That's a super fun show. I'm excited to be a part of it again this year. We've been doing it 3 years, and it's been a blast every single time. So that's the other spot we're going to be at. Through the Driving While Awesome side of things, this is an event that we're putting on specifically for our patrons on Patreon, and we're going to do a curated little kind of hang/drive, if you will. So we're going to meet up with our group and then hang out with our listeners, and then go on a drive and spectate the what do you call it, the the
Tour
Pebble
de
Beach.
Pebble?
They call the tour. Yes, exactly. Down the coast there. So we did that last year, and it was a ton of fun. There's going to be some food there, and then that's sort of like the end of the major commitments.
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
be doing some stuff at the track on Saturday.
It's a lot,
We'll see,
yeah.
but,
That's it.
but yeah, but it's fun to be back at Laguna. Sorry, at a car week with a RADwood event,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we've done a couple in the past, and this one should be really fun too.
Well, that's really exciting to have, like, the big new paddock event. That's a really big deal. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's
fun.
cool. I mean, it's I think an interesting concept, right? It's because everything's pretty expensive in Monterey, right? And there are some premier events that are even more so than just
Right.
expensive, and they're extremely
Correct.
exclusive and impossible to get into, and so that are on lawns, and they do amazing stuff, and they're also events that I want to be a part of, but. In this case, it's something that's a little more approachable, $100-ish, but you get a lot of that vibe, right? So you're on a golf course overlooking the ocean with good food and beautiful cars and great people. So yeah, it should be a good time.
That
You're
sounds
even
awesome.
going to let us two in, so thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see you there,
Appreciate
and
that, yeah.
and make sure you bring your polo.
Yes,
Period correct.
something
polo
with short sleeves, yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. So although with Monterey you want to do the short sleeves under with a layer
With
on
a
top.
layer,
Right,
yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right,
because
that's right.
you never know what to expect there. It could be 40 degrees and foggy, or it could be 75 and sunny. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You might appreciate
Amazing
the
either way.
polo while we're there.
there you go. Yeah, totally.
Art, do you have time for one more question?
Sure,
From
yeah.
Instagram,
Let's do
it's
it.
the Photographer's Garage. Thank you. What city or market has RADwood not been to, but would love to?
That's a great question. This is a selfish one
Okay.
because Hagerty does not have a plan to enter this market, but I still want to do Japan.
That would be so
shocked.
great.
Yeah. So I still would love to do Japan. Yeah, we experimented with the idea, and it's challenging. It's tricky. It's the way that just from doing business in Japan for so long, like you really got to breadcrumb your way to sort of introducing concepts and products to Japan. Like you just can't show up and be like, "Here's my new this,
Yeah,
buy
right.
it." Like everyone's like very like kind of slow to everything has to there's a method, like people are sort of reserved initially, and then eventually once they're into it, they're like into it
All
150%,
in.
right? So yeah, exactly. So I have some ideas around that and how to do that, but it's just again, like this is RADwood is no longer mine, so to speak, or ours, right? It's like so it wouldn't be in the interest of the rest of the org, but like that is something that I would love to do still, because there's some great venues. There's, I mean, the coolest cars there, because there's all the forbidden fruit that we didn't get here, right? Not just JDM, like all the European stuff
that's a
too.
great point.
So because they have access to all of that we didn't see here. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to throw a number out there, but I'd say 75 to 80% of all of the really cool Euro, like AMG, Alpina, RS Carreras, the 964s, a lot of those are coming from Japan. And so, because the market was booming there, right? And so they have a ton of that stuff there still. And I mean, speaking of values and stuff going nuts, I remember being there. I went to a place, it was called LMP Cars Aoyama in Aoyama, and I always walked past it whenever I was in Tokyo just to see what they had in the showroom, because it was always the coolest stuff. I walked up to it one day, and there was it was a turbo Carrera. So this was like a 76.
Okay.
This is an early car, a 3-liter car. It's got the really cool little rear spoiler. It was a chocolate brown car. It was so rad. Lowered on gold BBS wheels. I'll never forget it. And this was in 2013. And they wanted $40,000 for it. And I was like, and I remember thinking, like, can I make this work? And now that car's 6 figures easy, $200,000, who knows, whatever. There was a lot of stuff there. People already caught on though. Like, I mean, I was way too late to the game. By the time I was actually in a position to buy some cars and sell them, like they were already very valuable. And that's hence why you see a lot of these cars being imported from there.
Well, I would love to see a Japanese RADwood show. I think that would be just think that would be amazing, and it sounds like you do
Yeah.
too. So we'll look for that in time. And
Right.
there's so much we didn't get to talk about tonight. The Driving While
Well,
Awesome podcast.
We can talk about anything.
All right, you got a few more minutes? Okay.
I'm not
Because
in a rush.
When you said 900 episodes for Driving While Awesome, like that's a huge achievement. I mean, just doing anything with other people 900 times is, ask me how I know, very, very impressive. I mean, what's your
Totally.
secret?
Yeah, it is pretty amazing, right? Because in the time that we've been doing it, we've seen so many podcasts come and go. It's really hard, especially because our podcast in particular is not. I mean, we do make some money, but it's not the main focus,
Sure.
right? It's literally an outlet for us to literally meet up and talk cars and drink some beers and just kind of keep in touch, right? And luckily that concept resonated with a lot of people and continues to do so, and so we just keep it going. We do our rallies, which is a big part of the podcast sort of ecosystem. But I'll admit that I came in a year after it was started. It was started 10 years ago by the three original co-founders, and I came in a year after that. So I've been on for about 9 now, and so it's been awesome. And I think a lot of it has to do with just being good friends, right? And it's like, and we've rarely argue. Like, I mean, it's of course there's things can get heated at times with certain discussions.
Sure.
Never like
Right.
a thing that is like, to the point where like I'm walking away or anyone is.
Sure.
It's just like, just like it being very, we're also, it's kind of a perfect balance of having sort of like key tenets or just a foundation of like, of what we appreciate, and those things being sort of like true across all three of us, right? Like we're all into like, we love to drive our cars.
Yeah.
We all love manual transmissions. we love, also we're pretty easygoing. We're pretty open-minded, and we're like, those things are sort of at the core of it, right? And we're legitimately, all three of us are very, very hardcore car guys. So like, we love this stuff. We're super nerdy about it. That helps. And then the rest of it is like pretty subjective, right? Like we have like, I'm obviously into JDM stuff. Like, I like certain things. I look out of my car and, certain maybe aesthetic choices that they may not be into, and vice versa. And like, and that's fine, right? We each kind of have our own thing going, and like, and we're also, we take kind of like a comical approach to it, right? It's like we're pretty laid back with this whole thing. It's like we don't take ourselves too seriously, and like, and I think that having that kind of comedic element, like people like too, right? And so it keeps things fun and lighthearted. Not always, but for the most part, right? It's this is all to have a good time, right? Like that's why we do this.
Yeah.
It's literally like our outlet for like joy. Like that's what it's what we do to,
There you go.
part of like the whole driving car culture thing, right? And so luckily we're all into it enough to where it just kind of has continued going, and also having Lane, who's the guy who's been sort of like the engineer behind the scenes, like keeping everything pumping, and like he just has a really good system and is and pushes this stuff out there and on a weekly basis. For a while we were doing 2 episodes a week, and
Wow.
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of people have no idea how much work a podcast is.
Yeah, it's a
We're just
lot
giving
of
it to you for
dedication.
free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it takes just commitment and dedication,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, we all have done, our part in that. Like I used to commute, like I used to drive an hour and change every week to record from San Francisco to Santa Cruz, which our studio is. And I did that for years. Now I record via Zoom because I'm not close enough to drive, but like
Right.
whenever I'm in town, I record in the studio with them, but they're in the studio. And
Yeah, okay.
so there's that, and just with everything else, right, with family and life and everything, just like it's something that is on the calendar and we just stick to it.
Yeah,
That's kind of the thing.
Yeah, it just becomes a routine, I suppose. And I guess if you weren't doing it, you'd miss it, right? So it's just you just do it, right? It's you're
Totally,
compelled.
yeah. It is, and it helps too that it keeps us sort of relevant in the automotive space.
Yeah.
I mean, it's being really pragmatic about it. Like, this is how we stay, like, or we get access to events, and
Yes,
and
yes.
we have a voice, and we're all of those things are important to us, right? As we build network and like connect to all these other people, like it's the fact that we have this outlet, and it's a platform that has an audience, like definitely
Right.
helps us, and it's part of the deal, it's like definitely part of keeping us going. It's like, all right, like we want to continue this, right? We want to be able to do X and meet cool people like you guys, right? So like
Same.
that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great answer. It really is. One other question, if you've got a minute. Best,
Sure.
I don't know how it was worded. Best RADwood playlist or soundtrack.
Ooh,
What would be on your
soundtrack.
top 5 or top 10?
Oh man. So a full mix?
Go-tos, right? Like I thought long and hard when I put our little promo together. And I ended up on new shoes because that just sort of seemed to encapsulate RADwood.
Okay.
But I don't know. You
Awesome.
tell me.
Yeah, it just, there is, how do I put this? I mean, the thing for me is also, it has a lot to do with like mood, right? Because like I love David Bowie, and like David Bowie always gets me moving, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
like, I love like a lot of his music, and I feel like you can't go wrong there. But sometimes I want to be, I'm in a different mood, right? And I'm like, I'm more like, East Coast, like, early rap, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I want to listen to, stuff in that realm. And so, I love the Beastie Boys, still, and it just really depends on the mood. It's hard to say. I do have a super comprehensive playlist that we've compiled, that we occasionally use for events, and it is a very wide array of music. Everything from like Fleetwood Mac to Vanilla Ice. So because it's
That's amazing.
it's the era was so like. There was so much diversity in the music, right? Like in like Toto, to comparing Toto
Sure.
to like MC Hammer, right? I mean, like it's,
Yeah.
and you want both of them on the playlist, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, listen to the artists you just named. Like, did you ever think you'd hear those in the same sentence? But like, it's of the time.
But all good. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
fantastic.
totally,
Like, it's
yeah.
so
You,
fun.
you want some Sir Mix-a-Lot in there, you want,
Have to.
yeah, it's all awesome. Yeah, I mean, we Warren and I travel a lot together because we're the ones on like kind of boots on the ground at these shows, and so. We listen to a lot of Hall & Oates. That's pretty iconic, and you can't go wrong there. So yeah, hard to say like one tidy playlist, right?
Sure,
But I think I threw some options out there for you.
Like any good DJ, got to read the room, right? And you got to know what the bangers
Exactly,
are,
yeah.
right? The
Totally,
anthems,
yeah.
right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, "Careless Whisper" at RADwood. I don't know if like that's the right. I like the song, but
Depends where
does
you
that
are,
make
right?
sense? I don't-
maybe Japan, it would be a hit, right? Yeah. So-
Yeah. I mean, I mean, there's also I listen. Oddly enough, that you mentioned that. I listen to a lot of Japanese city pop, which is
Okay.
basically it's music of Japan from the '80s, and so it is. It's very interesting because it's definitely very heavily Western influenced,
Okay.
but it's got like sort of a little bit of a jazzy synthy vibe, and like
Okay.
and there's also a few different bands that are very into like jazz fusion, and so and it's one of my favorite genres. And here, like it's not super popular, but
Yeah.
like if it was a RADwood in Japan, I'd be inclined to play a ton of that stuff, So.
You'd
But
be all
I mean,
set.
I don't know if like LL Cool J would resonate as well over there, but
It's funny, like the 80s and 90s, you look back at it now, like they were these halcyon days, right? And at the time, they didn't seem so great, but I guess that's just how this works, right? Sentimentality and everything else. But
Yeah.
damn if they didn't put out a good soundtrack, right? So
totally, yeah.
got-
No, I mean,
got that to work
I
with.
still, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I am maybe more of the stereotype. I do look back on it very fondly and like
Yeah.
with the rose-colored, rose-tinted lenses, if you will, because
Yeah.
like, especially because it's mostly about where you are in your life, right? And so like
right.
it's like being a kid, especially like for the '80s, right? I was a little younger, I turned 40 something today, like, but like. I definitely remember like playing Nintendo with my friends, right?
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
sleepover,
yeah.
and like in '88 or something,
Yeah,
and that was super cool. And it was
Right.
like one of the best experiences I ever had. Right? We were just eating all the pizza in the world, and we had nothing,
Right.
no bills to pay,
Right.
no all the stuff, just have no responsibilities. And then into the '90s, like actually getting my first car, and
Yeah.
then like and doing all of that stuff, and then everything that comes along with being a teenager and just sort of like sure there were some challenges and not so great things, but like and also you look at the macro, right? Like political stuff, all that. Like I don't really look at that. I'm just like thinking about like what was I into and what was like, and that sort of thing, right? Because naturally every era is going to have some strife and and some issues, right? But I feel like the overall though, like I think it was a simpler time, right, as they say, and being able to like jump. Like I remember like leaving my house after dinner and riding bikes for 3 hours and coming back in the middle of the night, and like my parents didn't care as long as I got back,
Yeah,
and,
that was important.
I needed to be back by 11 p.m. It was not a school night, and I could do whatever the hell I wanted, and it was awesome, So there's little stuff like that, and then of course all the movies and there's all the pop culture, and that's what makes the RADwood stuff so popular, right? Is that you walk around an event and you're going to see all the memorabilia, all the ephemera, all of those things, like you're going to see that. Memorabilia that is tied to motorsport, sure, but also just pop culture stuff, right? Like we just had at a NorCal event, we had an Ecto, like a Ghostbusters Ecto build with like Slimer and like all the Ghostbusters equipment. They built their own gear, like their own what do you call it? Their own
the proton packs.
The proton packs. Yes. Yeah, so they built them pretty legit, and it was actually a JDM spin on it. It was like some sort of JDM like Toyota Crown wagon, and they converted it into an Ecto. So
I love it.
There's a ton of stuff like that, which is really fun. Raddest dressed at RADwood NorCal was Elliot from ET.
I saw those pictures. That was amazing.
Yeah, and he had the period correct BMX bike with the ET up front, and like we just happened to know the family that both of his parents are friends of ours, and we had no idea that they were going to do that. And it was not up to us that he won the award. Like he was like overwhelmingly the most popular.
It was so good.
Outfit.
I can't see 3 kids on BMX bikes without thinking of ET, right? Like it's just that's the impression that movie left on.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, keep doing the amazing work, Art. I mean, it's just, like I said, RADwood really has become a movement, and, it's a word that just about everyone knows, right? I mean, you're part of the lexicon, and I think that's the highest compliment. So thank you for joining us, and on your birthday, nonetheless. So
I know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. This is such a great birthday present.
Oh, you're kind. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
No. We'll look for you at Car Week. As far as social media and all that, where to find you, best places, and what's your next event, I guess, after Car Week that we should look for?
Yeah. So you can find us at the podcast stuff and all the driving events. That's Driving While Awesome, at Driving While Awesome on all the things. At RADwood Official on all the things for RADwood anything. RADwood.com, of course, for schedules and tickets and stuff like that. And then personally, I'm at Artsees, so ARTSEES. It's a play on my name. It's kind of a nerdy thing. That's probably, those are all of the main properties there that you'll find our stuff on. And next event will be it's going to be in Detroit.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
We're going to be a part of a thing again called Cars at the Station in front of the Michigan Central train station that Ford completely redid. I don't know if you guys saw that. They totally restored it. And so we had a presence there last year ahead of our main event, our own standalone event. But this year we're actually totally integrating into that event. So
amazing.
We're going to do a display there, our own RADwood display as part of that experience. It's free to attend to the public. So check it out. If you want to submit a car, it's carsatthestation.com, and you can just put your information in there in the notes, say that you're interested in RADwood, and we'll take that into account. I think we're only going to do about 50 to 60 cars, so it's also pretty curated. But that should be a fun time. And then after that, real quick, we're going to be in LA October 25th, back at the same venue at the Port of Los Angeles in San Pedro.
Okay.
Nice.
We're going to do a takeover there again, and then October 25th. Did I say October 15th? October 25th, and then November 15th. Yeah, November 15th will be our Austin event. And so we're going back to CODA, which we have been to for, this will be our 4th time, I think, there. But yeah, that sort of rounds up the year there, and then we're back at it again early next year.
Okay. And thank you with the pop collar. You may have saved my life from rabies tonight. So as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to go do some bat hunting.
Going to go investigate.
That's wild. Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us despite the intrusion, and really a great conversation, Art. Thank you very much. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Again, you're killing it, and we love RADwood and can't wait to see you at Car Week. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a ton. And and hopefully your audience comes and checks us out. Just go to radwood.com, check out our schedule and see if it's close to you. If not, make the trip. Make a trip out of it,
Right.
We choose interesting destinations for a reason, right? So, fly out, do the RADwood thing, stick around for Sunday, check out whatever town we're in.
Absolutely. Well worth it.
It's worth
Well,
it,
Lindsay,
for
you
sure.
always close these things up.
Well, remember, always be driving. And thanks for doing it, Art.
Yeah. Thanks, Art.
Thank you.